Good evening and welcome to another edition of our home education show. My name is Alicia Scott and I'm with my host Debbie Eno, and we're going to be discussing some our guests who's all the way from the US, her journey into homeschooling. And we're very excited because we do enjoy doing these shows, and we took a break last week, but we did something different. But this week we're back to having guests on tonight. So I'm going to hand over to Debbie to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Debbie. Oh my goodness, I'm falling over myself. I am not a home educator. I am in the traditional education system. My only way into alternative have been home, Saturday school. So that's an aspect I've been involved in. And I do a number of shows, 7 o'clock to 7:30 in the morning, Everything Education on a radio show. Yesterday, I also did, Female Educators Roundtable, that I spoke to my guest, Janine, yesterday, looking at, what happened 18 months after COVID and 18 months after she decided to set up her own business and going to homeschooling and leave the traditional education. Hence the reason why she's on the platform today, because she's actually left the traditional education. And as a result of COVID, 18 months after, here she is in doing alternative. So hence the reason why, you all might be saying, oh my goodness, we saw her yesterday. Yes, you did. Because yesterday she was in traditional education, because I wanted to know what she was doing 18 months after COVID. And she said she's doing home educating. So she's actually come on today to tell us about her journey, what she's doing, etc. So Jenny, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, good morning from California and good evening in the UK. Thank you, Debbie, for having me on again today. And Alicia, it's so nice to meet you. I'm excited to be here and to share what I'm doing. I was a teacher in the traditional public school system in California for 11 years. I taught as a special education teacher when the pandemic hit. I am also a mother of 3. I have a 13-year-old, a 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and I'm a single mother. So it was challenging trying to teach my students online when the schools were closed, and then take care of my 3 children's needs, especially the littles, because they need a lot of help and attention throughout the day. And I had no choice but to resign from the school district that I had worked with for those past 11 years. They really wanted their teachers to have a specific schedule where they taught live stream between 8:30 and 2:30. And I knew that that would be very hard for me to achieve with trying to take care of my, at the time, 3-year-old, and then support my 8-year-old through her curriculum as a 2nd grader. So once I got through that first or the last part of the 2019-2020 school year, in July, when we made that decision to go back as teachers, I chose to not go back, and I homeschooled my daughter for 2nd grade. My teenager stayed in middle school on distant learning until the schools reopened. She did absolutely fabulous. That's her niche, so she went for it. My 3-year-old, we did preschool activities that built on to the 2nd grade activities that my daughter was doing with her curriculum, and it was such a wonderful experience. I feel like I finally got to spend present time in the moment with my children and really enjoy them. And I did take a year off of work, but during that year, I decided to build a platform that could bridge traditional education and bring in more homeschool families, bring in educators to the homeschool realm, bring in parents and families that are maybe on the edge. They don't know what to do. They want to homeschool, but they don't know if it's right for them. So thank you. That's why I'm here today, is to talk about that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Alicia, are you going to kick off?
Yeah, well, I believe the first question has already been answered. So I think I'll save the business questions a little bit later, if that's okay. And I'll kick off with, so we've already had an answer to why you decided to become a home educator or homeschooler, because in America, they prefer to use the term homeschoolers, whereas here, people prefer home educators. So I'll use them interchangeably, because to me, you know, I'm, so what do you feel that traditional school lacks, Janine?
I feel that the traditional school, at least here in America and specifically in California, it lacks being able to create a curriculum that is geared towards the child, that is student driven. All of the curriculum is very cookie cutter, it's very linear. Yes, they have levels differentiated for like average, below average, above average, and they have these set of tests, standardized tests that they've grouped all these kids in to say that, you know, this is what it means to be average, above average, below average. They go off of IQ tests, which the research shows that IQ tests for intelligence are so outdated, and there's really like multiple levels of intelligence. So I just feel like the traditional school system, at least here in America, they're still running off of concepts, research, and things that were from 100 years ago in the Industrial Revolution. They are trying to integrate technology, integrate new research methods in psychology, social and emotional development that help us to change our mindset from like a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, school culture, to make everyone feel safe and comfortable and loved so that they can have that learning environment they need to thrive. But we're not there yet. And I feel like they're just repeating the same failures over and over. And in America, we're the 40th in traditional school, public education, we're the 40th in the world. We supposedly have the #1 military and lots of money, but we're 40th in public education. That just really shocks me. I believe, as you know, a citizen in this country and a teacher and a mother, that it could be so much better. So those are just some of the things I feel are lacking in traditional school. The only other things I would say is like the teacher to student ratio. There's one teacher to 25 students on average. And that's a lot of kids for one teacher. How are they supposed to really personalize their education when it's one adult to 25?
Yeah. Thank you. What are the benefits of home education? Because you've done it with your 3 children at different, you know, and you have they're 3 different age groups. Right?
Yeah.
So what are the benefits? What do you think the benefits in terms of to them and the benefit in terms of you? You know, how have you benefited in terms of home educating your children?
So with home education, it's completely on our terms. It's how we want to create it. And there's no one way.
Look at Alicia's face.
Structured. Right? And I just feel so glad that I got to have that experience. Like that was the silver lining of this pandemic, is I was forced to do it. I had no choice. So did a lot of other people in the world with children. And as an educator, being able to experience that, it was phenomenal. So I truly feel that students thrive best when their learning is driven by their curiosities and there's a natural flow to that learning. I do believe they benefit from somewhat of a schedule, learning routines, learning some structure. But when you are educating one child or 2 children in your home, or you know, maybe up to 6, depending on how many children you have, versus a class of 25, and I'm just speaking from the educator, you know, that platform, it's so much easier to target their learning and completely teach them at their level. So for example, my daughter was struggling with learning like the coin amounts. And I was talking to her papa, And he said, oh my goodness, I have a huge bucket of change. And so he gave us all of his coins. It was like a big bucket of coins. And we took it home and we laid it all out and we sorted all of the pennies, all of the nickels, all of the dimes, all of the quarters. And by counting that money out, because she got to keep it after she counted it, and there was like $50 in there, she was just so excited. But we were able to take that time to create a unit of lessons to teach her that concept and really like have it sink in and have it mean something to her. And she wrote a letter to her papa. So we incorporated writing, we incorporated reading, we looked up the presidents on the coins and the different buildings and things on the coins. We just really took our time to learn about it. Whereas in traditional school, they can't do that. They have to teach you, 1 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 25 cent. This is how you add it and subtract it. Here's a test, we're moving on. So children are able to fully absorb it and learn through their own curiosities in a system that's not set up for that.
How did you think that it benefited you, home educating?
I felt I felt so free. I really felt like I could be an educator. Everything that I had learned in college about child development, I could actually put those skills to use. In the traditional school system, I couldn't. I was tied to the specific curriculum and the time schedule that they wanted me to use. So I felt like I couldn't use the skills I had been taught to become an educator. And that I feel is one of the best things for myself that I developed during homeschooling as an educator, was to really feel like I could embrace everything I had learned to become a teacher and actually utilize it and not feel pressured. Everything was on our terms. If we weren't feeling it that day, we would just go to the park and play and then take the day off and then do some things the next day. So I loved that the schedule was on our terms. We could school whenever we wanted to, and it would always be at any moment you could learn. Like one day we went to the post office and my daughter had no idea what a post office was. And so I walked her and my 3-year-old through the post office. I showed them the stamps. I showed them the mail room because you could see it through the side without going through the back. We talked to the mail person and the cashier up front and spoke about the process. What happens when we hand them our mail? Where does it go? And it was such a beautiful learning experience. And I had a parent step to the side and comment and say, oh my goodness, are you on a field trip? Because you're explaining everything to them. And I was like, no, these are just my children, but we're homeschooling and I happen to be a teacher. And yes, I believe every moment is a learning moment. So
yes, like look at Alicia beaming.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had the same experience with my daughter. Certain things that you sort of just take for granted, that growing up, we know what a post office is, but it was the same thing when I took her to a post office. She was like, what are we doing here? What is this place? And it was fascinating. And again, just like you, Janine, I turned it into a learning experience. And yeah, that was a day of learning for us, because yeah, she literally had no clue. So yeah, because for me, growing up, I used to receive letters. I know what the post office is. I know where letters go. But my daughter, it was a completely new phenomenon for her. I completely forget that she's a different generation to me. And yeah, she was like, what is this place? Why are we here? And I was like, it's what we're having to do now. We can't see people. Zoom is not always the same, like when you want to like sing happy birthday or something. So this is what we do. So where we have to come to send cards and send presents. And she was really amazed. She was absolutely amazed by the post office.
I love that everyday learning. There's always an opportunity for it.
Oh no, most definitely. So the next question is, so over here, when children are in primary school, like their school grades are quite high, they enjoy learning, their curiosity is also quite high. But when they move on to secondary, they sort of they lose that learning. How was you able to maintain that as a homeschooler?
I believe it all has to do with making sure their education is driven by them. They will lose interest in secondary school because of the way it's set up, the way the structure is set up. They may be bored with some of the topics that they're learning. They may be overwhelmed with all of the standardized testing. They will feel social pressure from being around peers at that age when they're teenagers, hormones, just it's a really difficult time in your life. You're going from being a child to a young adult. And the research shows that our brains don't fully develop until our 30s. And for men, for women, it's early 30s. For men, it's like mid 30s. And I'm 38. So I'm like, wow, I always thought I was an adult at 18, that my brain was at full capacity. And I went to college until my mid 20s, but I tried to just cram everything in. I thought it was over from there. No, like learning is a lifelong thing. So when you take that age group and you think, how could I homeschool them and give them the proper education they need? I believe they would truly thrive in that environment because they can decide what they want to learn. They could even, at least here in the US, they can start taking classes at a community college or a university. And there are lots of other parents that are educating their kids at home right now. According to the recent statistics here in the United States, prior to the pandemic, there were 2.5 million students like registered as homeschoolers, and it almost doubled. We are now at 3.7 million for 2021 for homeschool age kids, and not all of them are primary. Primary was like a very small amount. It's mostly that secondary age or intermediate secondary age, and there's just so many things they can do that will really enrich their learning. I've spoken to some other moms that homeschool and other parents, and one of them said their son is 16 and he does not want to go to college. He does not know exactly what he wants to do for a career, but he loves farming. Well, they live in the city, so they don't have a farm to go to. They found another parent within their homeschool community, and that parent had grandparents that own a farm, and they were getting elderly and could not take care of all of the things. They took that boy under their wing, showed him completely how to run the farm. It was helpful to them. It was helpful to him because he could learn what it's like to run a farm and own a property. And it was a wonderful learning experience. In traditional school, teenagers do get to have work experience, but it's just within those 6 hours of the day, and they might gain some experience from it, but not in that same format that you can customize it when you homeschool.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that. How do you feel, or in what way do you think home education prepare young people to navigate the real world more than traditional education? Right, let me rephrase it. How do you think, or how do you feel home education prepares young people to navigate the real world more than traditional education?
I believe that the real world is not one size fits all. It is not cookie cutter. It is not standardized. It is not multiple choice, A, B, C, or D. That right there should be enough to explain why traditional school is not preparing them as well as they need to be. And I would have to pull statistics to prove that, but I already know in my mind when students graduate from public schools, whether they're going into college or going into the work field or career field, the employers are saying they're not as prepared as they need them to be to join the workforce. They are not learning like self-care skills and like how to sew if you have a hole in your shirt, sew a hole in your shirt. So we learn how to sew it up, learn how to clean a house, learning how to do those simple things, even driving. A lot of this younger generation, they'll just take an Uber or a different form of transportation, which I understand. I think that's good to not have as many independent vehicles on the road. It helps the environment to utilize that system. But as they're going more into technology, some of those life skills are not being taught anymore in the schools. So with homeschooling, you can balance that. You can still learn how to cook. You can still learn how to clean and care for yourself in your home because you have time for it. I know that with my children, they are so busy in the public schools and their sports or whatever extracurricular activities there are. I have to limit the amount of chores they have because there's simply not enough time. I want them to be able to get their homework done and study for that test they have coming up. And if I'm forcing a bunch of chores on them because I want them to have those skills, then I'm taking away that time they need to study for that test or go participate in that sports game. So there's always like that give and take. But I truly feel with all homeschooling, you can still provide those extracurricular opportunities to be in sports, to be in a technology club, whatever it is they're into. But since you're not having to spend so much time studying for a standardized test or having that pressure of everything that they have in that traditional school system, you can take the time to teach them those life skills that they need. And when they do graduate and they are an adult, they have so many more skills to build on. And employers are like, yes, oh my goodness, I needed someone who could count back change, who knew how to take a $20 bill and give back the proper change and count it back to them. Kids are in high school and they don't even know the coin values. They know what a debit card is, they know what a credit card is, but they're going into high school not even knowing that because that traditional system is set up to just teach them to the test, teach them to answer a question on a test. They don't have those creative critical thinking skills.
Yep. Thank you.
That's so true. Debbie's always saying that. That's one of her key catchphrases. Just like over in the US, just like here in the UK, we're always saying that the system is just designed to teach you the test. As long as you can regurgitate information, you're fine.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do, and it's true. Children are losing out on learning valuable critical thinking skills because they know how to do to repeat. They're taught to just repeat information, but when you ask them to actually dissect that information, it's a different story. They have no clue what you've asked them to do. It's like I always say the same with my physics. I only passed my physics exam because I memorized the textbook. The night before, I just memorized the textbook. That's why I didn't understand what I was doing. When I came out of that test, the teacher was like, "Oh, how did you? How was it?" I was like, "I don't know. I just wrote down the formulas that I needed to memorize what I need." I said, and I was fine. And when I got my grade, even the teacher was surprised. He was like, "Really?" I was like, "All I had to do was memorize." I said, "Anyone could have passed." I said, "Anyone could have passed that test."
That's so
I couldn't
true.
tell you now. I couldn't explain anything now. If you ask me anything, I couldn't explain it.
I agree. I'm seeing that right now with my 13-year-old. She's in 8th grade, about to go into high school, and she had a project at the end of the quarter, and she actually got to use some artistic skills and create like a diorama from a scene from a book she read. Well, the entire 8 weeks of learning before that was all skill-based. Memorize facts, take a test. Memorize facts, take a test. She did great with that. A+ on every test. She came to do the project and she was so excited because she finally got to use some artistic skills and crafting skills, and she loves those things, but she felt so rushed and pressured to have it done by a certain time that it took some of that joy away from her. So I know with educating at home, you can take your time with those things. There's no timeline. You need an extra day or two, go for it. So I feel that.
Thank you, Janine.
In the UK, often when you tell someone that you're a home educator, the first thing they say, I don't know if it's the same for you, how do they socialize? So in what ways do you feel that home schooling, home education impacts a young person's ability to socialize?
Well, I really don't believe there's an impact. I believe there's a bonus when you homeschool them. And here's why. At least here in California and throughout the United States, again, that teacher to student ratio, you've got one teacher to 25 people. And I look at it as an adult. If I'm going to walk into a room of 25 other adults, say at a network event, an educators event, I'm not going to meet all 25 of those people. I'm probably going to gravitate towards a couple of people, ask for their names, say, oh, can I sit here? Listen to what others are saying. But unless there is an organized effort to have like an activity plan to have all 25 people meet each other and learn something about each other, I don't feel that, to me at least, it's important to know that large of a group. So with homeschooling, there are groups that are called homeschool pods. There's groups of parents that come together and create a co-op, which is basically a small organization of homeschoolers, and they get the kids together on certain days to do physical activities, art activities. Parents all volunteer, or they'll bring in an educator to host a lesson, and they get that social time. It's just organizing on a different level, but it's still done. I know a lot of other homeschool families where they have a whole schedule set up. So maybe Monday they're home working on their individual things, or they may have access to an online class where they see some other students online their age and make those connections all around the world. And then they'll have their local groups, or sports, or theater arts, or music. There's so many different things you can do with homeschooling. And another benefit is you're not stuck with the same 25 group of kids for the entire school year. You can go out and meet other people, go travel to other cities within your area and explore. And I feel like for my children, they've opened up more to be more social, because they're like, oh, where are we going now? And they're open to meeting new people in those places and other children. So.
Wow. Yep.
That's such a valid point, Janine. We haven't even had that raised before, but that is so valid. It's true. When you're stuck with the same group of pupils, what are you learning? But that is, that's never been raised before. That is such a valid point.
It is, because what you tend to hear all the time is, oh, with home education, the children are not socializing, because, how are you going to make sure? Because if you're home educating them, and I have to say to people all the time, there's so many home education groups that you could get your children involved in. You could go out on trips, you could go into different groups with trips, so those are all the socializing. But because we have been so conditioned to think that the only way that you are able to socialize as a child is when you go to the traditional school and you meet people in your classroom, and at playtime you all go and play together. So therefore, that is the benefit of, in terms of socializing. And they're failing to realize we have been conditioned like that. You could socialize anyway. You could go on a bus and end up socializing with somebody on the bus, because you're exchanging ideas, you're having a conversation, and that's what it's all about. So because we've been so conditioned, we think that when a child is not exposed to a whole range of children or young people at the same time, it means that they are failing to socialize and failing to get the skills necessary. That's a myth. as we have all could, as educators and people who are involved in home education, we could all see that it's a myth. It's not reality.
That's so true. I think that was one of the biggest things that was an epiphany to me, was like, wow, all of those stigmas on homeschool and educating at home, they're not true. I can create this how I want it for my children, how my children want it, how they want to learn. And the other thing is the age groups. So in traditional school, they are all put in a class by their age. And if you think of how much we learn from people that are younger than us and older than us, it's so important to have those experiences with people outside of your age group. My 4-year-old learns so much from his older sisters. And I am so thankful for those interactions that they're able to have and learn together from. And they learn how to be able to have empathy and understanding, and like learn how to teach the skills that they have been taught, those, and that's called skill mastery, when you're able to take what you've learned and share that with another person. So there's just so many benefits to it.
Exactly. It is so very true. It is so very true. Is it my turn to ask, Alicia? Whose turn to ask?
I believe it's yours. Yeah.
Okay. What are the challenges and triumph of home educating?
The challenges, I believe, is just my outlook on it, like believing in myself as a mother and an educator that I am good enough to be better and provide a better education for my child than that traditional school system. Here in America, we're brought up to believe that traditional schooling is the best of the best. But again, look at the statistics, 40th in the world. We're not the best. So we have to do something different. And I truly believe, since I've experienced it, that being able to get to know my child on a personal level and following her flow of learning, her style, what works for her intrinsically as a child, that's just been the best experience, just being in that present moment with her. And it really empowered me as an educator and as a parent. It was such an amazing feeling. And what was the other part of that question, Debbie? I know I talked about the challenges.
And the triumph.
The triumphs. Okay, yeah. We're good.
Yeah. Thank you. Alicia.
No. Oh, do we?
It's you.
Sorry. So what 3 tips would you give for someone that that's considering homeschooling? Janine, what 3 top tips would you give them?
The first tip I would give is, when you decide to take your child out of traditional school, take a few weeks off. Don't rush into educating them right away at home. They have been trained to be obedient in a traditional school system, which you have to. When there's one teacher and 25 kids, you have to have some strict structure in that building to be able to keep everyone safe, especially with the little kids. So my number 1 tip would be, take a little bit of time off, because when you homeschool, you have the whole year. You have every single day of the week to be a learning experience. And the second tip I would give is, reach out to other homeschoolers in your community. Reach out to other parents. Look on Facebook or Instagram, whatever social media platform you use, to search for those groups, because when you can be a part of a group, you can learn from each other, and it's not so overwhelming to feel like you're doing it yourself. And number 3 is to really focus on your child and being in the present moment. It's going to take a while to find a curriculum that fits for your child and what fits for you. And I'm going to add in a fourth, and that is that home education is not one way for everyone. You are not obligated to teach your child and give them instructions from 8 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. like a traditional school does. If you work and you need to work and you have set aside activities for your child to flourish and play and learn and grow, and then you come home after work and you get your child from wherever they were at, if you don't work from home, then you can do schooling in the evening. You can do schooling on the weekends. Like, every opportunity to learn is there. And now it's in your control as a parent. So I think those are the biggest tips I would give to parents wanting to homeschool their children.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us a bit about your business? Because I know you've actually set up a business on home, on supporting home educators.
Yes, so I have had this dream since I first became an educator to create something different, like create a different system. And then working through the traditional school system for 11 years, I just kept building on this dream in my mind. I knew that someday I would leave public education and start a school or start an education movement, because I feel so strong about education reform, especially in the United States. And I have tried my best as an educator to go to board meetings, to go to educator meetings, and try to be a voice for the students within that traditional system. And every single time, it was never, yes, we'll listen to you, educators. It was, oh, we're going to do what the board says. We're going to do what the district officials say. So I felt like I didn't have too much of a voice when it came to the whole district. So with that, and then with the pandemic occurring, I had no choice but to really pour all of myself and my experience into creating my own business. And I have trademarked the name Lifelong Learning Continuum. And at first I thought, I want to make it a private school so it could be an education system. I want to make it nonprofit so that way people know that it's all about the students. And then in the state of California, some things started to come through with health guidelines and officials, and our governor announced that we would be the first state, I don't know about the first place in the world, that would mandate the new COVID vaccine in our children. And a lot of parents are very concerned with that. They are concerned that the vaccines are only out of phase 3 in the trials. They have not had a chance to research it long term like we have with the other vaccines that are mandated to attend public school. And parents are starting to feel like the public schools and the government are just taking away their parental rights, taking away their choice on how to educate their children, like what curriculum they're exposed to, what things they're learning in school, their style of learning. They feel like their children are losing their curiosity, that their children are not prepared for work after, just pretty much everything we've discussed this whole hour. And they also feel that they don't know what to do. They want to homeschool, but they don't know how that's going to fit into their schedule. And they want to see this change, but it's not coming. So that's where Lifelong Learning Continuum comes into play. I have created a platform for educators who want to leave the traditional school system to come and network with families that homeschool. As an independent educator, they get to choose their schedule. They get to choose what they charge as far as earning an income or exchanging that for their services as an educator to help other families that maybe don't want to take on the curriculum. They want help from someone else to do it. So it's really a bridge. Lifelong Learning Continuum is a bridge for people to be able to leave that traditional school system. And whether it's an educator wanting to become an independent educator, they could teach online, they could teach in person locally, they could go to a family's house, like where a pod is set up, where maybe 4 different families decided, okay, well, let's create a pod and we'll hire this teacher to come in and teach these certain topics. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the week we'll have our other schedule, and that educator could still support them with what that schedule looks like. So it's just really supporting parents in this new journey for homeschooling and this whole new option for education. And I truly created the Lifelong Learning Continuum because I saw what was missing in traditional schooling. Being an educator for 11 years, I saw that there was no focus on mental health and health and wellness. I saw program after program being taken away in arts, life skills, sports. All of those extracurriculars were taken away. So the 3 pillars of the Lifelong Learning Continuum are education, recreation, health, and wellness. I want everything to be equal so that when a family comes in, it's not just the student receiving the education and the support and the services. There's also support for the whole family, so they can do it together. They can all experience something, the same things that I've experienced educating at home. And finally, I just believe that with a system and a platform that is set up to individualize it for each family, since homeschool never looks the same, more parents will be welcoming to that, and they'll feel safe. They'll feel like they still have a community. They'll feel like they still have a social outlet for themselves and their children, but they will be empowered to know and feel that they are the best person to educate their child. They are the best person to teach them life skills within a community where they have access to educators, to online resources, to community resources. It's truly an amazing thing. I'm so excited to be creating this. And it truly is my way as an educator of grassroots, like bottom level. Let's just reform education together. We don't need to go through the government and go through the officials, because we've tried for years and those things aren't changing. So if we create our own way of learning and we go off of the ideas and the research that the top countries in the world in education, what are they doing? What is Finland doing? Yeah. And we can bring those things to where we live. It's truly, I feel like it's phenomenal. And I'm so excited to have the Lifelong Learning Continuum start here in Lodi, California. We have the most, our sister city right next to us, Stockton, is the most culturally diverse city in the entire United States. We have the most cultures mixed together. We are a true melting pot. And I thought, what better place to start this movement? And we see so many kids in that system. Their second, English is their second language. Parents can't come in and communicate. Well, why not create programs, create mini pods where we can learn other languages. We can learn directly from those families. So it's truly exciting.
Thank you.
Yes, and if anyone is interested in checking it out, I have a website, lifelonglearningcontinuum.org, and there's an area in there where you can reach out to me. Right now, I'm starting this in my local area, but I want to be able to expand to anywhere in the world. So anyone who wants to create a platform and have it be accredited by the Lifelong Learning Continuum, I want to be that person to reach out and go help a community put one together. Right now, it's pretty much online, and because it is a private education association, we are able to provide freedom of choice medically for parents and students. So they're not having to follow the strict mandates and guidelines that are coming our way. They have more freedom in that. They have a freedom to choose their child's education, because with Lifelong Learning Continuum, we build that for you. We build what makes sense for your family, what fits your family. So I don't have a set curriculum. Come to me and we'll talk about it and we'll create something, which I think is so phenomenal. And that's why I'm not calling it a school. It's really like an education revolution, because we're individualizing it to meet every person's needs on their level.
That's brilliant, because as you say, if you call it a school, it means that you are stuck in the traditional program condition way, and people then would expect, like the same old national curriculum to be there. Whereas if you're saying it is continuous learning, it's like people have to think, okay, well, this sounds different. And so it ought to be, because we've been in the system. We know it doesn't work, but nobody wants to break it down and start up. That's the starting about it. Nobody wants to break it down and start up. They see it's not working. All they see we're doing is producing, program children, program young people. You program them, you put them in your program. You say, here you, as Alicia said, which is so fantastic. It's like you just cram and that's it. It's like my son said the same thing to me as well. He said, Mom, anybody could pass exams. All they have to do is know how to revise and cram it in the head. He said, Mom, there's nothing exciting about that, She said, frankly, it's boring. Okay, I hear you, it's boring. So, for some of these young people, they find education boring. It's the same old thing, which is...
They lose that curiosity and that love for learning. And then just like I thought I was done learning after college. I didn't think that I was going to continue to learn new things every day. And I do learn new things every day. And now that I am free from what I felt was a constraint. And some people don't feel that way. Some people love traditional school, and that's good. I'm happy that they have found something that's perfect for them. I just feel like there needs to be more options. If there's people like me sitting there like, this doesn't feel right, I'm not learning what I want to learn, I feel like I'm losing my curiosity, this isn't right. There should be options. So that's what I feel is truly such a blessing and is so beautiful about being able to educate at home. It's a wonderful option. And with the help of others, you can create it however you want it. And I think a lot of parents won't take the leap because they are so stuck on their children, like wanting their children to know the standards of learning and being able to like pass the standardized tests, because for some reason that certificate, that score on a page, like is validation for them. And a lot of them don't understand, again, America, 40th in education. So really, what does that test mean? When you compare their knowledge and learning to a child in Finland who had a number one worldwide education experience. So I'm just so passionate about giving people those options. Being in the realm of special education, I had children come to me every school year with a huge wall of bricks built up because they were told in a general education class, you failed this test over and over again. You failed, you failed, you failed. Well, really, what was the failure? The child was not the failure. They're a child. What failed them was the way the curriculum was given to them, the way the test was given to them. They need something individualized. And in my environment, I was able to break that wall down brick by brick. And I did it by just getting to know the child, asking them what they were curious about. Let's not focus on math right now. Let's build something with Legos. And then before you know it, we're building and we're measuring the building they made with the Legos, and there's your math lesson. So I would always find a way to go off of their curiosities, to slip in that learning, and it would just happen natural. And before you know it, that brick wall came down, and I could see clearly that this child did not have a disability. They had no reason to be labeled with that to put them down. Are they a different learner? Definitely. Are the chemicals in their brain working differently than mine or maybe my child? For sure. Do a brain scan, you would see that. However, I would never label that child. So the other amazing thing about homeschooling is you don't have to have labels put on people because we're all individual, beautiful people learning. And that's the part I think I enjoyed the most, actually, going from that special education realm to homeschooling and having a business that can help other families achieve the same thing with an alternative option to traditional education.
That's put so beautifully. What I really love is the way you spoke about the special needs education child. That is so beautifully put, because that child start wearing that label from primary school, and that child continue to wear that label. Someone put that label on that child from young, and throughout the education system, that child is wearing that label. You know, the child doesn't deserve that label, but because that label have been put, he or she begin and continue to wear that label. And when you say something, as the child become older, the child herself or himself take on that label and say, oh yes, well, I'm special education, I'm ADHD. Really? You know, that's the, whoa, my goodness. On my Monday show, I'll be talking about labels. Thank you for that. The labels in education, that's my show for Monday morning.
Why I'm so happy to be here.
That is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Right, Alicia, have you got any other?
Yeah, these conversations are so important to have. Yeah. So I just feel so thankful.
Yeah, they are powerful. They are really powerful. Really, really powerful.
Oh, no, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Alicia, have you got anything else to say? Any comments to make? Any thoughts?
No. Just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show and getting to meet you, Janine. It's been amazing hearing your journey, and I'm so excited for your new venture. I can't wait to be checking in, and I'll definitely be having a look at your website. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see where your journey goes. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alicia. I'll put the website link in the comments on Facebook once the video posts.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Janine, have you got anything else you want to say to us before we just wrap up?
Thank you. Thank you again. I appreciate your time and having me here to be a part of this conversation. This is so empowering. Yesterday, after our conversation, I just felt so empowered the entire day. And I had parents reaching out to me. I feel like the universe was listening, and it was like, you're doing this, you're creating this, and we are going to keep sending people your way from from that so that you can build it. So it was truly an amazing day, and I look forward to the rest of my day today because of this. So thank you for empowering me.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. Yesterday, I was so excited. You know, I was so excited. I said to Alicia, I said, oh, I also said to my VA, can you quickly make a poster for me this morning? I said, because yesterday I didn't have time. I said, because, you know, the same person we have on the show yesterday, she's coming on today because she's a homeschooler. I was so excited. I must say, I am so grateful, and I'm so truly blessed to the universe for God, whoever people see it. For me, I see it as God you know, to actually giving me the skills, the opportunity. And I say to everybody, I am not a presenter. I am an educator who want to be a presenter, who probably think that she's a presenter. I don't know, right? But I must say, I am loving this thing. I'm loving it. And then when I connect with Alicia through my mentoring, I thought, Alicia, you want to come and let's co-host it? She said, yes. And I think, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. It's been truly amazing. Yes, COVID have killed a number of people, died as a result of COVID, but at the same time, we need to put things in perspective because it actually have taught us a lot. And we have gained a lot. I have gained a hell of a lot. Knowledge, skills, understanding, gifts. I have just, and I never realized how powerful I am in terms of empowering other people. And I must say, I am so truly grateful for the people who've been on my path, to the people who've actually supported me and empowered me and, you know, gave me that skill. You know, it's just truly amazing. And for my 100 group, my, you know, my mentoring team, which Alicia is part of, I just love my mentees. They are just truly fantastic. You know, there's seven of us, and it's just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I am truly grateful, and I feel so truly blessed to have actually given that thought to start off this platform. And every Friday, Saturday, when Alicia and I come on, it's more exciting. We're learning so many things. I know I am. And I'm sure Alicia is also learning too. She could speak for herself. I'm speaking for myself. I have learned a lot.
No, I totally agree. No, I totally agree. No, I absolutely enjoy having these conversations, and you learn so much. Like you said, Janine, about when you speak to other people, and we've learned a new perspective today. So it's been great. Yeah, I definitely I'll be taking away your insight about what you said about socialization, because I never really thought of that before. That when you are with the same group of people from, well, over here, yeah, from Year 6. That's not great. The same mindset, you know, that's something that I think school system should look into. Because when you're stuck with this, it's true. It's actually you're with the same people for 7 years in the same age range as well. But something they could think about in schools, maybe mixing it up. But when the pleasure of home education is that you are exposed to so many different age range, and it's true, just like as adults, how we learn from our pupils and our children, and then we learn from older adults. You know, that is the same for the home education community. So for me, that's been my highlight of today. Just a different perspective in terms of socialization. It's like when you say you're a home educator, it's like you said that you've just fought an alien. As soon as you say to someone you're a home educator, that is the first thing that comes to their mind. I had it from family, from friends. Oh, how did you socialize? It's like, how is that the first question on your mind? Because I don't associate school with socialization. I would never pair the two together. I don't put school and socialization in together. I would never say to my child that's what school's for, and I wouldn't say to myself that when I was growing up. School to me was a place to gain education. So I don't see where the connection when people straight away say socialization. How does it happen? But it does happen.
Yes, and I think that brings up such a wonderful point. We need to create a new name instead of homeschool. Just the word homeschool or home educating emphasizes that you're stuck at home. So no wonder why people think that. They think, oh, you're stuck at home all the time. It's like, no, I'm able to travel. I'm able to provide experiences anywhere, and then with the internet we could go around the world.
That is so true.
That's what it is. It's true actually, because that's another notion that people have. They just think you're sitting at home, but it's like, why would you think that? When I ask someone, what do you think home educating is? And when they just said to me, I just think you sit at home, it's just the two of you. I'm like, are you okay? That's not what it is. Like, are you in the dark ages?
Yeah, that is so true. We probably need to coin the phrase alternative education.
Yeah, no, it's true. No, we do need to have a look at the terminology. I totally agree.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very, very much, Janine. And thank you to my co-host. Oh my goodness, this is so funny. And thank you to my co-host. And thank you to my platform. For those of you who are listening, if you want to start the journey of home educating your child or homeschooling or alternative educating your child instead of the traditional, reach out to us. And as you see, we have so many different people that are coming on the platform to talk about the journey. And Janine is going to put her link in the chat so people are free to make contact. If you're like any doubt about the power and the magic of home educating, alternative education, reach out to us. Every Saturday, Alicia, every Saturday, Alicia and I are here talking about home educating, homeschooling, or alternative education to make you know that it doesn't have to be traditional. There's so many alternatives, and we need to start taking the alternative. We need to take the plunge. It is so beautiful. So I urge you guys to really think about it, because when you think of the traditional education, sit in rows, be quiet, turn face the front, stop talking. Come on, this is not real. We're talking about human beings here. We're not talking to robots or about robots. And that's what the traditional school gives us, is the sense of being robotic. How could you say to somebody, sit still? Really? Were we born to sit still? That makes no sense. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. Anyway, thank you very much. Good night, good morning, good evening, everybody. Take care, stay blessed. Thank you very much, Janine, and we speak soon. Take care. Bye-bye.